Move your stuff out of the way. Then there won't be any problems.
He ordered me like that.
A place for you to sleep? The hallway is empty, isn't it?
My husband made an unbelievable remark. Fine. I did as he wished and slept in the hallway. Afterwards, they would deeply regret their actions. My name is Helen, a 30-year-old office worker. I've been married to Richard for 2 years. We met through work. Our respective companies were business partners, and we were both in charge of the account. Initially, someone else had been in charge, but partway through, Richard took over, and that's when we met. Richard gave the impression of being a hardworking and serious person. After working together several times, Richard invited me to dinner, and that led us to exchange contact information. From then on, we started meeting privately as well, and began dating. Richard is 2 years older than me, very understanding and reliable. He always looks cool, taking care not to make me feel uncomfortable during dates. With his gentle and grateful personality, Richard looked incredibly wonderful. We continued to date, and about 2 years later, we decided to get married. I was very happy to decide to marry the man I loved, Richard. After that, we held a family meeting, introduced our families to each other, and then had our wedding ceremony. Many people attended our wedding, making it a memorable ceremony. Seeing Dad and Mom cry, I felt happy, thinking I had done something good for my parents. After that, we went on our honeymoon and began our married life upon returning to the country. Our married life was incredibly enjoyable, and I felt happy every day. Every morning I wake up to find Richard sleeping beside me, and every night I'd greet him with a welcome home. Simply eating meals together every day made me incredibly happy. On our days off, we often watched movies on Netflix because we both love films. We're more of indoor people, so we put a lot of thought into making our home time enjoyable. We invested in a comfortable sofa and even got picky about the coffee we'd sip while watching movies. I studied various things and became proficient in brewing coffee. I also often baked treats. Richard was pleased, saying it felt like being in a cafe while at home, when I served delicious baked goods and coffee while we watched movies. In this manner, we spent our days happily as a married couple. Before I knew it, 2 years had passed, and I thought we'd continue to create many more happy memories together. However, recently, there's been a presence that has started to bother me. Patricia, my mother-in-law. Until now, we had had a good relationship with my in-laws. Richard likes his parents' home, so we often visited, and I would occasionally accompany him. Both Patricia and my father-in-law were kind at those times. However, my father-in-law recently passed away due to an illness. After the hectic times of the funeral and other related events, Patricia started coming to our house quite frequently. "Richard has arrived."
"Ah, welcome, Mom."
Patricia would often come over to visit on our days off. It appears that Richard is the one inviting her. As the eldest son, Richard always seemed to make Patricia happy with his invitations. They would have joyful conversations every time, but they often spoke about family matters, making it difficult for me to join in. Moreover, Patricia would frequently complain about various things to me.
"Do you make this kind of food every day? I feel sorry for Richard. The room isn't well cleaned. You're failing as a wife."
Both of us are working, so we divide the household chores. Richard mainly takes care of the cleaning, and I try to make meals as simple as possible so it doesn't interfere with work. Because of that, I often freeze prepared dishes, but Patricia would randomly open our fridge and complain about what she found in the freezer.
"You can make hamburgers on the same day, can't you? Serving frozen food is unthinkable. You're a housewife. You shouldn't neglect your chores."
Patricia would say things like this, even though I am also working as a company employee. She doesn't seem to understand that. Well, I am also working, so I would like some flexibility in how things are done. Even when I say that, Patricia responds,
"You're busy with just a part-time job. How pathetic."
What is she misunderstanding? Patricia doesn't seem to think I'm a full-time employee. Every time I explain that I'm a company employee, she doesn't listen at all.
Women can't possibly excel as company employees, after all.
She completely disbelieves me, citing such outdated reasons. And what's troubling is that Richard seems to take Patricia's side. Or rather, he can't seem to break free from his mother. So even when I talk to him about Patricia, he doesn't seem to think she's in the wrong.
Mom is a bit scatterbrained. I know saying she has old-fashioned views sounds negative, but why not just think of her as traditional?
He says things like this to me, but that's not the point. My issue is with her dismissing me based on outdated views. I couldn't care less what you call her way of thinking. However, Richard doesn't understand my feelings at all, and I had no choice but to endure the harassment. Then, Patricia began to get carried away and made an even more shocking statement.
Maybe I should move into this house.
What? This isn't a joke. Why would she even say something like that?
Coming over to this house all the time is kind of tiring, so I was thinking maybe I should just live here.
I absolutely do not want that to happen. But of course, Richard agreed.
That's a great idea. Let's all live together.
That's what Richard said. I talked to Richard after Patricia had left. You agreed to live with Patricia, but what are we going to do about the rooms? Our house is a 2 LDK, and we don't have any spare rooms. We were using the 2 rooms as a bedroom and a storage room for our belongings. Therefore, there's no space for Patricia to live if she comes. What on earth is Richard planning to do? Then, Richard said something unbelievable.
Just clear out your stuff. Then there won't be any problems.
He ordered me like that. What? I was surprised that Richard would suddenly say something like that, and also shocked at his attitude. Why is he suddenly so cold? Why are you speaking so harshly?
Mom said you were bullying her.
What?
You spoke insultingly about Mom, didn't you?
I had no idea what he was talking about. While it's true that Patricia had said unreasonable things to me, and I had retorted, I hadn't used any language that could be considered insulting. Probably Patricia said that to discredit me. I haven't said anything insulting.
Don't lie.
I'm not lying.
So you're saying Mom is lying?
Yes, Patricia is spouting nonsense. Hearing that, Richard's face turned bright red with anger.
Cut it out. So Mom was right. Your true nature is terrible.
Why won't you believe me?
Obviously, I believe what Mom says is correct. Anyway, clear all your stuff out. We're putting Mom's stuff in. Mom and I will share the bedroom.
So where should I sleep then?
Where can you sleep? How about the hallway?
Richard made an unbelievable statement. Fine. I really can't believe it. How could he do such a thing? My affection for Richard cooled instantly. And when Patricia arrived, they really did clear out my stuff and put hers in. What's more, the bedroom was now being used by Richard and Patricia, leaving me without a place to sleep. I couldn't believe they would actually make me sleep in the hallway. Richard and Patricia smirked at me as I stood there, stunned. But I won't give in to such people. As they wished, I slept in the hallway, no matter what. Later, Richard and Patricia would deeply regret this. To sleep in the hallway, I bought a high-end sleeping bag so that my body wouldn't ache. Surprisingly, I could sleep more comfortably than when I was in the bedroom. This might actually work for my lifestyle. Plus, Richard's snoring often kept me awake, so maybe not being bothered by that is a good thing. While staying positive, I was set on getting my revenge on Patricia and Richard. I started keeping a daily log of the harassment I was subjected to. Patricia made it easy for me to record her, since she would loudly berate me. I documented every instance of her bullying me, making it look tough even though I was actually comfortable. About 3 months later, one day Richard brought a colleague home from work. Apparently, they decided to continue their night out by drinking at our place. Patricia took this as an opportunity to act like a good person and try to impress Richard's colleague.
Your mom seems like a kind person.
Hearing that, Richard looked quite pleased. I was busy making food and preparing drinks. They kept the party going, and eventually Richard's colleague decided to stay the night.
When I was told there was no guest room, I said I don't mind at all and would be fine with sleeping on the floor.
However, I couldn't let a guest sleep on the floor, so I suggested the sofa. The sofa is made of good material, so it shouldn't be too uncomfortable. When we offered, Richard's colleague gratefully accepted and decided to sleep on the sofa. Richard and Patricia, perhaps worn out from talking nonstop and drinking too much, looked sleepy as they headed to the bedroom. As usual, I prepared my sleeping bag in the hallway after cleaning up. I also continued my habit of recording the harassment I endured from Richard and Patricia. Just then, Richard's colleague opened the living room door to use the bathroom and was surprised to find me in the hallway.
Whoa, you startled me. What are you doing here?
I had forgotten to move because sleeping in the hallway had become such a routine for me. But at this time, I saw this as an opportunity. I've been told to always sleep in the hallway.
What?
Richard's colleague seemed sober now and was listening intently to what I had to say.
Is he really making you do this?
Yes, he told me there are too few rooms, so Patricia's stuff goes inside and mine goes out. I was even locked out of the bedroom I used to share, so now Patricia sleeps there instead.
Wow, that's messed up.
His expression showed clear disgust after hearing my story. He then seemed curious about what I was writing.
What are you writing there?
This is a daily record of the harassment I endure. Having something like this can be advantageous in case of a divorce.
I see. May I take a look?
Yes, of course. I showed him the journal where I recorded the daily harassment. He skimmed through the contents, then returned the journal to me with a sigh.
Richard's mother is quite terrible too, isn't she? To be honest, I never thought he'd be such a lowlife. You should leave him as soon as possible. I know some lawyers, so if you'd like, I can help.
Thank you. This was a lucky break. He had essentially witnessed Richard and Patricia harassing me. This meant I now had someone who could vouch for the fact that I was being subjected to this treatment. This would undoubtedly work in my favor during the divorce proceedings. He then gave me his business card for work, mentioning that I could email him if I needed a lawyer's recommendation. The fact that he chose to give me a business card instead of directly exchanging WhatsApp information showed that he was considerate and professional. He mentioned he's in sales, and I got the impression he's very competent at his job. Richard's colleague left early the next morning. Patricia and Richard cheerfully offered him breakfast, but he declined with a strained expression. Well, if he knew their true nature, he'd probably find them quite distasteful. After he left, Patricia and Richard started complaining that my hospitality was lacking. You should have prepared breakfast in advance.
If people see you preparing it only now, they will politely decline and leave.
While they accused me, the truth was that his colleague seemed eager to leave early, which is why I didn't bother preparing breakfast. I was already at my limit with their baseless accusations. I immediately sent messages to the colleague asking for a lawyer recommendation. When I showed the lawyer my harassment journal, they told me that not only could I divorce Richard on the grounds of his behavior, but I could also claim compensation for the emotional distress they had caused. I went to the office to get the divorce application form, and upon returning home, thrust it in front of Richard. I can't tolerate this life anymore. Let's divorce. Upon hearing this, Richard looked shocked. However, Patricia seemed extremely pleased. Isn't it great? You can get rid of unpleasant people. I always thought Richard deserved better. He should remarry a young woman at work and have kids soon. Patricia said that, and Richard also seemed keen to divorce me.
That's absolutely true. I've decided to break up with you, haha.
Saying this, Richard filled out the divorce papers. Then I'll go submit these now, and then I'll pack my things and leave." Hearing that, both of them looked extremely pleased. "Let's go celebrate today. How about we order some top-grade sushi?" Ignoring their jubilant chatter, I left the house to submit the divorce papers to the office. Finally, I would be free from that house. Submitting the divorce papers lifted a huge weight off my shoulders. Then I returned home and packed my belongings.
"Guess we won't be seeing each other anymore."
"Don't come crying to us when you're single and struggling." Both of them said that in a condescending manner. Standing at the doorway, I retorted to Richard and Patricia. As if I would ever rely on a spineless mama's boy and his foolish parents.
What did you just say?
How dare you say that? Patricia and Richard blushed with embarrassment at my harsh words. I'm just telling it like it is. I won't forgive the constant torment and bullying you've put me through. I've already hired a lawyer. So I will sue you for the emotional distress you've caused me with your words and actions. Upon hearing this, both looked extremely flustered.
Wait, are you serious about suing?
We haven't done anything that bad, have we? If you lack awareness, all the more reason for you to experience the consequences. In any case, I'll be sending a certified letter, so you can check the details there. Both of them went silent, their faces pale. In my heart, I yelled, "It worked!" and felt a surge of joy throughout. Even now, remembering the troubled faces of Richard and Patricia makes me smile. Afterwards, I went through my lawyer to claim compensation from Richard for causing me emotional distress through his words and actions. With ample evidence available, he had no choice but to pay. Moreover, that colleague of his spread word of Richard's unacceptable behavior within the company. Now Richard is looked at with cold eyes by his coworkers. He's whispered about behind his back, referred to as a pathetic man who hurts others with his terrible words and actions, and he's reportedly feeling quite uncomfortable. However, with the payment of the compensation due in the divorce proceedings, and having to cover living expenses and rent for Patricia as well, Richard must be in quite a tough situation now, especially considering his salary isn't that high to begin with, and his career prospects have dimmed. But it's all Richard's own fault, and I really think he got what he deserved. On the other hand, I've started living in a single-bedroom condominium near my workplace, and am enjoying very comfortable days. Being close to the office allows me to work overtime until the last minute, and I'm able to achieve good results in my job. For now, I plan to focus on my career, aiming for advancement while living a work-centered life.